On today's episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast, is it time to be concerned about Tyler Kolek after a dismal start to Summer League? That and much more coming up right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Gavin Schall. I'm the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast, covering every step, every moment in Summer League over there. And I am a credentialed media member that's been covering the New York Knicks for nearly a decade over here on Locked On Knicks. That's right. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 whole days a week. So be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing to both YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. On today's show, as we mentioned, it was another really poor showing from Tyler Kolek. What does it mean for next season on the Knicks? What does it mean for his future in the NBA? We will get into all of that. Plus, Kevin McCullar Jr. bouncing back in a really significant way. His best showing as an NBA talent comes in his second ever Summer League game. And the French connection, not all good. Limited minutes for both those guys, but Pacome, Dadiét, and Mohamed Diawara, I thought there were some real flashes there. So we'll get into all that on today's episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast. But before we do, I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, without further ado, we start this one with Tyler Kolek, who I feel like through 2 games, which we have to caveat all this with, an incredibly small sample size. As we mentioned, there have been plenty of great guards who have really struggled during Summer League. You could look at our guy, Jalen Brunson, or not so much our guy, Trae Young, as golden examples of that. But I was going to say Kolek, I think, has been a microcosm for the Knicks' struggles through 2 games so far. And what's shocking about this is that he was obviously fantastic in Summer League a year ago and had some real moments in big league action as well. We mentioned the stat yesterday, but I think the last 2 podcasts, but I'll say one more time. Last year in Summer League, he had a total of over 35 assists and under 8 turnovers, and became the first player in Summer League history to ever hit those 2 marks. This year, through 2 games, he already has, I think it's 9 turnovers now for Tyler Kolek at this point. I didn't pull up the assist total. He had 4 in this game. I think he had 8 in the first game, so that's not particularly bad. The big concern for him so far is the scoring after an incredibly inefficient game 1. It did not get any better in game 2, a 94-81 loss, I should note, to the Boston Celtics, where Kolek was 1 for 13 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3. I go back to last year and I just remember the way he dictated pace and he dictated action in the half court. And it felt like in the pick and roll, he was always leading the dance. And now that it could be multifactorial, right? Why that's not happening this year. We certainly know he has the talent to do that. The offense as a whole does not look very coherent. Last year was Dice running the team under a system that Tom Thibodeau had obviously very thoroughly implemented over 5 years. I'm not really sure. I think it's Jordan Brink is the coach. I forgot to write it down before starting, which was dumb. He's likely incorporating some of what Tibbs did, likely starting to incorporate some of what Mike Brown did. That could certainly be throwing a wrench in things to some extent for Tyler Kolek. I think it really helped him that they had Rokas Jokubaitis last year as a secondary ball handler, a lot of time playing those 2 together, which got Kolek off the ball a little bit. He was also another shooter to draw attention away. The Knicks don't really have the best spacing in their starting lineup, as Beauchamp's not a guy you have to guard behind the arc. Kevin McCullar Jr. is that kind of guy you have to half guard behind the arc. So those could all be issues. But Tyler Kolek, you could come up with every excuse in the book. He simply has not been good enough. He has not been aggressive enough. The shot, which was a real concern coming off a regular season where he shot like unbelievably poorly, especially in the games. Like I mentioned his statistics over that 8-game stretch where he actually got real time, and his assist to turnover ratio, right, would make your jaw drop in a good way. And then his shooting percentages would make your jaw drop in a bad way. And there is no really credible evidence right now that he is capable of scoring at an NBA level. I had some confidence coming out of last year's summer league because I thought he showed some real finishing craft and some real creativity around the basket, a lot of different angles, like left-hand scoops, like kind of hook layups that allowed him to compensate for his lack of athleticism and his lack of size. That has not been present. He's not been good at the basket. At least for now, the shot does not look improved. Again, it is ridiculous to some extent to say off a 2-game sample size that it's not better or it somehow got worse. And yet you start to sound the alarms right after a 1 for 13 game and 0 for 6 game from 3, right? He at 24 years old, we mentioned like you have to hold him not only like we were talking about like fear of Kevin McCullar Jr. after he had a really bad first game and he's an incredible second game because he's 24 years old. And if you're 24 years old and you are talented enough to be a credible rotation piece in the NBA or even just on an NBA roster, you should be dominating summer league, right? This should be a walk in the park. And even on the days you don't shoot the basketball well, you should be able to compensate in 3 or 4 other different ways if you are an NBA player. And I don't want to say Kolek didn't totally do that. Like in the first game, we mentioned like just transcendent outlet passing, like is a tactical genius in transition. And in this game had some great passes as well. Like one in the second half where he was double teamed and trapped, and he just kind of casually like sprayed like a hook pass over 2 bigger defenders, something like 40 feet across the court to Pacome Dadiét on the opposite wing for 3. Like that was just a ridiculous pass. And he's a couple of those, right? Like he is a like in terms of isolated passing talent, I always make this distinction. Like you have to have some scoring gravity to get to that passing talent. But if you were to just put his passing talent in a vacuum, which maybe is a meaningless exercise, like he would be like a 97th, 98th, 99th percentile passer in the NBA. Like he's an absurdly talented passer of the basketball, and yet the scoring is just not there. And like I don't have any confidence in his jumper right now. I don't know if those of you watching at home like have good reason to disagree with that, but like a lot of times it's short. When it's not short, he's clearly trying to compensate, and it's long. The defense at times, like he just gets erased from plays. Like there was one lob where he got caught on a screen and he was just out of the play, gone, like just a Houdini act essentially. And then there's some good stuff defensively. Like he's certainly learned some of the dark arts from Jalen Brunson, where twice threw a foul on illegal screens, knows exactly how to run into that, fall, really sell it. Drew one of those in the first game. That's a lot of fun from him. Had 2 different strips when guys were going up to shoot against him. So that's a little bit encouraging. Again, there were moments of good passing, but it's just not good right now. And you gave up draft equity to move up and go get this guy. You passed on some good pieces. Like AJ Mitchell is the guy who was drafted with the Knicks pick. And obviously he ended up being a fairly relevant rotation piece for an Oklahoma City team that eventually won the championship. The biggest thing, more so than the draft capital, more so where you took him, and especially knowing you didn't have a lot of future picks to operate with down the line, which made that a very important pick, even though it was the 34th pick in the draft. The biggest thing was you knew when you were drafting him that there was no chance he was ever going to be or like an infinitesimally small chance that he was ever going to be capable of sharing a court with Jalen Brunson for any substantial amount of minutes. Like that just was never going to be tenable. Defensively was not a guy, unless he had a dramatic jump as a shooter, that was going to make sense playing off the ball with Jalen Brunson. So that meant there was just an immense amount of pressure for him to turn into one of the elite backup point guards in the NBA. And even in that best case scenario, you're probably eventually, like it's a Ty Jerome type deal. Like he's probably going to command a salary and also just command like, hey, like I think I'm good enough to be a starting point guard in the league and go to a different team. So it was a pick that in the moment, even though I kind of liked it just because I like Tyler Kolek, the player, like in retrospect, had very little upside. And I think we're seeing that play out now. And there aren't like I'm trying to think of ways this turns out really well for the Knicks and really well for Tyler. And as of now, there's just no obvious role for him on the team next year, unless he came out in Summer League. It was so good that you're just like, all right, we have to play him. And I, again, want to caveat this with it's just 2 games, and he at times looked like just fantastic running an offense around NBA level talent, and his ability to get like guys like Cat and Mikal and OG easy touches in a way that Jalen struggled with all year was really impressive. Um, I just don't know if he's going to get a chance to do that this year unless Jalen Brunson gets hurt, and he simply has to be better to sell the Knicks front office and a brand new coaching staff on the idea that he is worthy of those opportunities, even if Brunson were to get hurt. So that is somber, but there were some positives to come out of what was just a monstrosity of a basketball game that featured, I can't remember what the final number was, but all right, so it's 27 personal fouls for the Knicks, 31 for the Celtics. So a total of 58 combined fouls in this game, where the Knicks for the second straight game failed to break 90 points, only score 81 in this game. There were still some positives come out of it, namely Kevin McCullar Jr., a 30-burger. We're going to talk about in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Hungry Root. Let's be honest, meal planning and grocery shopping can be absolutely overwhelming between busy schedules, picky eaters, and trying to eat healthy. It is a lot. That's why I love Hungry Root. They take the stress out of planning by filling your cart for you with personalized groceries and meal options based on what you like and need. Hungry Root uses their smart cart technology to recommend groceries, recipes, and even supplements tailored to your specific preferences. Whether you're dairy-free, gluten-free, focused on gut health, or trying to eat better, Hungry Root has got you covered. So I love Hungry Root for a number of reasons. I'm vegan. They're very happy to cater to that, which is fantastic. Along those lines, I'm very OCD about trying to cook my meals from scratch, trying to make things that are extremely healthy, which is great if you have the time. It is extremely, extremely time-consuming to operate that way. And Hungry Root ensures that I don't have to waste time in the grocery store or stress about what I'm going to make on any particular night. They already have it figured out for me. So take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. You can get 40% off your first box, plus a free item in every box for life. All you have to do is go to hungryroot.com, just Locked On NBA, and use code Locked On NBA. That's hungryroot.com, just Locked On NBA, code Locked On NBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. All right, what's up, guys? We are back here on the Locked On Knicks podcast. Gavin Schall rolling solo with the first solo episode. I guess that was already implicit. And I said I was rolling solo. Alex Wolf will be back for tomorrow. So we'll have a fun conversation maybe about this game, maybe about something completely different, because it was not a very fun game. But that is not to say that it didn't feature a very fun and encouraging performance from Kevin McCullar Jr., someone I've had a disproportionate amount of faith in, I think, since he's been drafted. I don't know why. I've just had it in the back of my head, maybe just based on the blue chip pedigree coming out of Kansas, that like, this is a guy, if the Knicks need to play him, he's going to be able to hold his own in the NBA. And there was really no substantial evidence for that. I'm based on I mean, there were encouraging signs based on what we saw in Kansas. There were some encouraging signs in the G League, but it's hard to know for sure when he essentially missed all of last season with a knee injury. And game one was certainly not encouraging. And you heard how Alex and I talked about him. We were not particularly fired up about him, but it's why, again, you don't overreact to one game or 2 games, because Kevin McCullar Jr. Was amazing in this one. He had 30 points in 28 minutes, which is ridiculous. I got a little bit shaken up at the end of the game. I don't think it was specified in the post game what the injury was for him, but I'm taking that to mean it wasn't particularly serious. 10 of 15 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, which remains the big question for him. Like we've said it a number of times, like he, I think, has to figure out a way to be like a 35% 3-point shooter minimum on decent volume if he is even going to crack like the deep end of an NBA rotation. Did get to the free throw line 10 times, made 9 of them, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, did have a combined 14 fouls and turnovers. I'm going to choose to ignore that, just given what this game was, which was the Knicks fouling and turning it over a million times, and the Celtics joining them in that for certain stretches. I thought he was awesome in this one. I mean, drew all those fouls and scored all those points basically living at the rim, was consistently just torching closeouts, like Flash, just an innate sense of finding like space around the basket and weird angles to get off his layups. Just slippery driving to the rim, and is not as strong as Josh Hart, but there is a little bit of that there, both in transition and in the half court. Like he just kind of bounces off people and like finds a way to hang, and very similar to Josh Hart, even though he's not a shooter, has very good touch around the basket. We haven't really seen floaters, but like just so many of those layups go in. If you remember, Josh Hart like had one of the best rim percentages of a wing in like recent memory for the first 40 games or so of last year, shooting something like 72% at the rim. So there's some overlap there in a good way. You certainly see the core strength and the speed in the open court, again, kind of similar to Hart. And then some of the hustle plays that are similar to a Josh Hart, where he stole an inbound for a jam, and then another play like didn't give up after Max. I think it's Shugla for the Celtics got a rebound, and he tipped it away from him, got it, and put it in. The most exciting thing I think I saw in this game was the pick and roll craft, like on one, putting Baylor Shireman in, shout out to our guy, Manuel, quickly in booty jail, and then just bursting to the rim for a layup. Another one where like this was maybe the highlight of the day for him. He runs a pick and roll with Huck, and he's just staring Hukporti down like he's going to hit him for a pass, and it just freezes Amari Williams on the Celtics. And he's waiting. And then last second, left to right crossover, gets back. Williams can't recover to get to the rim. He gets a layup. Had another one with similar manipulation with Huck, where he waited for the second defender to step up, hesitation dribble to hold the second defender this time, and then hits Huck for a monster jam. Like you just see him making different reads. You see him just actively manipulating with his eyes, with his pace, and just a good understanding in both those instances. But you see he made different choices both times of what was optimal based on how the defenders were guarding it. A little bit more in transition later in the game, had a diving steal that led to a Diawara transition jam. At one point, as 1-3 was pretty smooth, like dribbling into it, right wing. That was really nice. Had an awesome defensive possession, I think early fourth quarter, maybe mid fourth quarter, where he just pressed the Celtics. I couldn't remember the guy's name, but pressed the Celtics point guard 94 feet up the court, and then ends up switching onto Shireman and forces a throwaway to Hukporti late in the shot clock. And I like the quote on him after the game. They mentioned that they were trying to get him some more ball handling reps, see how he does. Part of that again was Kolek was just struggling. I forgot to mention the first segment with Kolek, but they took him off the ball at points because he was struggling so much. At one point, Kolek just got stripped at half court, and it led to a layup on the other end. And McCullar did a really nice job filling in against just a tenacious Celtics defense, and having a really substantial impact in that respect. All right, we're going to finish up this one going rapid fire on the French wings, the French connection, Mohamed Diawara and Pacome Dadiét, whose night was also, like Kevin McCullar Jr., cut short by injury, but I thought, again, some really good flashes when he was out there. And I also want to shout out Ariel Hukporti for some great defense. We'll talk about all that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I wanted to be sure to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, particularly my New York Yankees, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. When I was at a Yankees game, as part of a friend's bachelor party the other week, I was tracking those same game parlays throughout. And I was just waiting, and it's kind of a fun group activity for the exact right time to place my bet and watch it ride into the ninth inning. FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. You can open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, what's up, guys? We're back to finish up a new edition of the Locked On Knicks podcast. I guess every one I record is a new edition, something to think about. Pacome Dadiét, not a great box score night for our French son. 19 minutes, 3 for 11 from the field, 1 for 5 from three, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, minus 17, plus minus, as the great Clyde Frazier would put it, in 19 minutes. And then leaves with what was described as foot soreness. Hopefully that's all it is. Hopefully he's back in action on Tuesday. Hopefully he's not shut down for Summer League, because that would be a bummer, because I think we have seen real flashes at this point for Pacome Dadiét, and there is certainly relative to last year in Summer League. I said it before, but I'd be lying if I told you I watched a ton of the Westchester Knicks this year. But even in limited minutes with the big club, there is a really discernible jump in his athleticism from last season and his activity level. Like when Alex and I were previewing Summer League, we talked a lot like look like the on the ball stuff for him. Like it is a success if he can shoot threes and if he can defend at a high level in the NBA. And while those two things are in some ways like a bit of a question, right? He hasn't shot great through 2 Summer League games. He's what, like a 34% shooter. With the Westchester Knicks, was 84% at the line, which at times can be a better indicator than 3-point percentage of future 3-point success. But we don't definitively know if he's a good enough 3-point shooter. Defensively, again, I think there have been great signs from him. In each of these 2 games, he's given up quite a few buckets, at times from like being inattentive, at times for being overactive, at times for playing pretty good defense and just guys making great shots on him. That's happened a lot over the last 2 games. So there are questions about the core tenets of Pacome Dadiét, even though I'm personally optimistic about both those elements in his game. What's really exciting though is something that I kind of took for granted at 19 years old was probably not going to be there for him. And for someone who by NBA standards, like I think most people did not consider a particularly exceptional athlete at the wing position. And I still don't know if you consider him a particularly exceptional athlete. This is all a long-winded way to say the first step and the activity level is really showing out. Like early in this game, like he raced around Ariel Hukporti for a DHO, drove on 2 defenders. He missed a double pump and then just quick second jump, right, to go up and put it back in. But even more so than the second jump, I just kind of noting like, all right, very confident going downhill. A little later in the first quarter, goes flying in for an offensive rebound. Again, the activity level is there. Really fun play between him and Dink Pate, where Pate drives, sprays it to him, and then his ability to attack gaps and attack closeouts has really shined so far. Like some of that, again, is like improving his athleticism, improving his burst, improving his explosiveness. A lot of that is just decisiveness and basketball IQ. Like Manu Ginobili was always so exceptionally good at that because he was really quick and he was a great athlete, but also because he would run into passes, right? He wouldn't wait for the ball to come from him. And you see some of that I guess ballsiness from Pacome as well, and like sort of like Matador style of play where like he runs into the ball, attacks the gap, and on that particular play, just by being decisive, he drew the defense in and then slung a hook pass back out to Dink Pate for a corner 3, right? And that is like instincts, IQ, unselfishness all in one play. That is awesome. You also see times where like he doesn't totally have it figured out yet. Like there was another play where he brought it up with a lot of confidence off a rebound, and I would have liked to have seen him like go downhill and get to the rim, maybe draw a foul. Instead, he waits for a screen, settles for a mid-range shot, and like ultimately gets swatted. But the single most encouraging play for me was he absolutely cooked Shireman at one point on a quick crossover. Again, like off a pass and just off of making a fast move and not holding it and waiting and measuring like the air pressure. Like he just went right at Baylor Shireman, quick crossover, and then beats Amari Williams again to the rim for a lefty layup. Just a level of juice that wasn't there last year. And I think you're just starting to see the outlines with Pacome of something good. Like none of that is me advocating and saying like, oh, this guy's like ready for minutes next year. He should like dislodge like someone else from the rotation. Like I'm not saying that. What I am saying is what I said last episode. I won't belabor the point, but there's a real clear need for the Knicks to have a 4th wing emerge, and you're hoping one of Pacome or Kevin McCullar is ready to go out there and do that. And we've seen encouraging signs from both. So that is great. Another wing we've seen some encouraging signs from is Mohamed Diawara, who looked like a completely different dude in the second game, just far more confident. with the basketball in his hands than he was the first game, which makes sense given that it was his first ever NBA action, which would be a little bit nerve wracking, and especially for a guy who did not see a lot of time on the ball in the French league, and was basically just relegated to being an off ball shooter from what I've seen. For Chile. I still have not Googled how to pronounce that. That's on me. But early in this game, he showed off like a really nice escape dribble off a rebound, which is like a small thing. But when a guy's, again, like 6'8" with a 9'2" standing reach, if they can walk and chew gum, you're celebrating that a little bit. And Diawara seems like he's capable of more than that. Had another play where he stole it and dribbled down the court for an and one layup, his second in 2 games. Again, though, he missed the free throw, but the speed was encouraging. The aggressiveness going downhill was encouraging. And then like you saw a little bit of a bag, like at one point, like had a hezzy and then slipped between 2 defenders, tried to get to his inside hand. It got swatted. But again, like he's showing me something like an ability to string together moves at that height. And then he tried the same thing, was actually successful. Like he ran a pick and roll with Hukporti, got into the lane, Euro again, suck in the defense, spray it out on the wing to Beauchamp for a good look at 3. He missed it. And then Diawara runs down the rebound. Like these are just, again, like stuff and like a level of advancement offensively that I did not see in any universe from Mohamed Diawara. And I was starting to think, again, like I'm sure a lot of you have heard, but he's the same agent as Gershon Yabusele. I thought that was like a wink pick. Like the Knicks did not really have someone at 51 or 50 initially that they were particularly excited about. And they said, hey, like would this help us with Gershon if we draft your guy? And the agent says, you know what, it wouldn't hurt. And maybe it was less so like getting Gershon, and Gershon was going to come, but that's why Gershon took a little bit less money to open up that extra like vet min that the Knicks have to work with now. So I don't know. That's conspiracy, Gav. Not sure what's going on there, but the point is Mohamed Diawara offensively better than I thought. The defense has been like a tad bit disappointing. Just from, again, like his French tape, I expected a little bit more from him laterally, but he's certainly had good moments on that end of the floor. And I want to continue to watch that with a closer eye, because it is a little bit of a hard thing to keep up with, like on an initial live watch. So I want to see more Mohamed Diawara defensively. One guy who absolutely stood out defensively in this one was Ariel Hukporti. In 22 minutes, had 13 rebounds, 6 of them on the offensive end, and 5 stocks. Again, that's 5 stocks in 22 minutes, 2 steals, 3 blocks, like just a ridiculous game defensively for the German big. He's showing signs again, like it's not usually when a guy's quote unquote too good for Summer League, it's because they're scoring an efficient 35 points or something. That is never going to be Ariel Hukporti, particularly in an offense that is not exceptionally functional at the moment. And yet what we like where you do see too good for Summer League is in how dominant he was in this game defensively. Like start off on Amari Williams, who tried to ISO him and get to a hook shot, and he held up and then got a piece of it. And then just an awesome job containing Baylor Shireman and drop, and then just swallowed up his passing angle, deflected the pass, got a steal. The hustle from him was great. Like at one point got a strip and then dove after it to try to recover the loose ball. Another one where he swatted Jordan Walsh and help and then dove to save it. Ended up leading to a Celtics jam. But I mean, again, just like the intention and the hustle, and like, again, like credit to RIP Tom Thibodeau, RIP in a basketball sense, obviously, Tom Thibodeau for just like imbuing that, or maybe in the Knicks front office for seeking those guys out. But you can't question the effort, right? All these guys play hard. Like Kevin McCullar Jr. had a bunch of hustle plays. Tyler Kolek at one point dove for a loose ball in this game. Like all these guys care. All these guys play their butts off. And Hukporti certainly fits into that category. I mentioned the pick and roll chemistry with McCullar. Like he has really good craft in that. Again, second straight game where he met Shireman at the Summit and just shut him down with a block. The passing was on display from him, where he had an offensive rebound in traffic and hit a beautiful drop off to a cutting McCullar, who ultimately missed a layup. But that was fellow German center, like flash of Isaiah Hartenstein there. The announcers were mentioning it. The free throws look good from him after shooting just 45% or around there last season. 5 for 6 last night, which was fantastic from Hukporti, and the form looks good and the shot looks soft. So I don't know, man. I believe in Hucky Bear. I think he is absolutely an NBA player, and he's going to end up having like an 8 or 9 year career. Like I think he is a quality backup center, and maybe potential to be a little bit more than that. As far as the other guys, it was not good for Marjon Beauchamp. I don't really feel any need to go into him. I don't really think he is a rosterable NBA player at this point. Maybe the Knicks will ultimately agree with that. Maybe again, he'll show out and put 34 up next game and make me look dumb, but I just don't really see it there. Dink Pate, I mentioned the corner three, flew in for a late offensive rebound and a putback in garbage time. At one point, dribbled out of a trap and had like a 45-foot like whip up the floor to Baba, aka Tokyo Drift, for a layup. That was pretty cool. Alex is our Dink Pate reporter, so I'll save it for him to talk about tomorrow. But I don't believe in the shot. And again, he's just 1 for 4 from 3 in this game. But some fun stuff happens when Dink Pate is on the court. Second straight game, his plus minus was very good compared to the rest of the team. Again, I don't know how much you want to read into that over a 2-game sample size, but it was cool. Shout out to Udai Baba. Some fun moments late in this one. Obviously a fan favorite. Crowd was chanting his name. Ended up with 5 points. That was cool. Some good activity from him. James Naji rather, joins Pacome Dadiét and Kevin McCullar Jr. in getting shaken up. He plays just 9 minutes as he was removed due to lower back tightness, according to Steve Popper from Newsday. He had a steal and push at one point to draw a foul. He picked Bassey's pocket at one point, who was absolutely dominating for the Celtics in the same way Hukporti was dominating for the Knicks. And Anton Watson came out and had some good minutes, smooth looking three, some awesome defense late in the game, where he's absolutely shadowing one of the Celtics. But that is pretty much all I have for you guys from Summer League Game 2. Much more coverage to come. I think we'll circle back because I'm pretty sure we only hit Mikal Bridges on some of the player reviews from last season throughout the week to supplement the Summer League coverage. And as always, like we're always taking mailbag questions if you want to submit on the Twitter DMs or you want to submit on YouTube community. We're always happy to answer stuff on the show. But until next time, this has been Locked On Knicks. Thank you so much for tuning in.